Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with great recordings you've never heard of. This ongoing series where I get to look into the little nooks and crannies of my CD collection and my travels through the CD universe, and remind you that there are some things in there that are really worth hearing, but that will never, ever, 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 ever get the attention that they deserve. Because there's like billions of reasons. And today we're talking about the Ravel piano concertos and this particularly splendid disc, which looks really kind of cheesy with its sort of like blue sticker Supraphon collection budget thing. It's a Supraphon recording featuring pianist Boris Krajny, who is really a fine pianist, and the Prague Symphony Orchestra under Bělohlávek. Well, we know him. He actually became much more famous after this was recorded. This was recorded in 1984 for the two Ravel concertos, which is what the feature things are, the left hand and the G major, and the Poulenc Aubade with the Prague Chamber Orchestra, conductorless. What a wonderful piece that is. It doesn't get played very often. And what a great coupling. It really is. You don't see this coupling that often. I mean, I think it's happened a couple of times. But they make wonderful disc mates. And here's the thing. What it makes this like particularly special? What makes it special is that the approach in the Ravel is the spikiest, most rhythmic, least impressionistic, most Stravinskian that I have absolutely ever heard. And it works fabulously well, particularly in the neoclassical G major concerto. I mean, the biting jazz elements of the left-hand concerto are also extremely well projected. I just love the fact that there isn't a scintilla, I mean a scintilla of impressionist fog in these performances. You know, usually there's sort of a soft, swoony quality to a lot of the music. You know, this is hard as ice. It's crystalline, diamantine. Is that enough adjectives? I mean, I think I've come up with enough adjectives that will give you a sense of where we're at with these performances. Really, they're very remarkable. It's remarkable, first of all, from Bělohlávek, because he tends to be a rather gentle guy. He's not one to go for a hardness of texture, a sharp gleam. But here, whoa, boy, do they. And Krajny is marvelous. I mean, he's absolutely perfect for the approach. You may recognize the name. Well, you may. I mean, who knows? He also appeared in the Schulhoff series, the Schulhoff edition, playing those piano concertos, which are really beautiful. And the second one, the Concerto for Piano and Small Orchestra, is absolutely based on actually it's earlier, but it sounds just like Ravel's. It's actually earlier than Ravel's, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's from the late 1920s, I think. But in any case, there's a style there, and there's a style that Krajny has absolutely in his fingers. I don't know what he's doing now. I really wish I did, because I heard these made it into the permanent collection. In other words, they're not in the overflow room. You're not going to see them there. We did tons and tons and tons and tons of Ravel in the overflow room, and this was not there because I keep this. It's so distinctive and so different and so well done. You know, it was a little bit similar, actually. If I had to call someone out, it would be Zoltan Kocis, whose recordings are also have that sort of clarity and that bit of edge and brightness to it, the lack of fuzz, of fog and mistiness. Now, listen, Ravel can be beautiful if you have some mistiness. You know, you've got also another Czech pianist, Ivan Moravec, who's famous for his suppleness of touch and gradations of tone color. There's plenty of touch and tone color here too. It's just that the approach is so hard-hitting in music that most people tend to regard as kind of, porcelain and brittle. And even the left-hand concerto, which has some really slamming moments and big, huge orchestral climaxes, and it still somehow comes across as well, maybe because it's not German. I don't know. People tend to think of it as on a lower level, both expressively and aesthetically, than Brahms' First Concerto, for example, or something like that. Well, this does not sound like Brahms' First Concerto either, but it really sounds special. And the Poulenc is just as good. I mean, the Poulenc is that's a much more obviously Stravinsky piece. It's for piano and winds. It's much more biting, and then the sonorities are etched in stone, much more so than the Ravel. But the approach works perfectly well for Poulenc. It's a lovely performance as well. And I don't know if you'll be able to find this. I have no idea. I don't know where it is or what it's doing. It's probably just languishing somewhere because it was never particularly famous. This was obviously made for local consumption back in the day in the 1980s. But boy, they were talented musicians. And can this guy play these pieces? This is a beautiful disc and so different from any of the others, which is what makes it special. Different, but in a good way. Different within the parameters. See, I always make the square when we get to this point. Within the parameters of what benefits this music and what it seems to demand. So there are other performances that realize other elements of these works and do it supremely well. But this is unique of its kind. And therefore, I find it to be one of the greatest recordings that you've probably never heard of. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.